presidential candidate of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, Mrs. Obi Ezekwesili, has described both the All Progressives Congress and People's Democratic Party as both responsible for the huge number of poor people in the country. The ACPN candidate said this while presenting a manifesto, as well as the national chairman of the party, Abdul Ganiyu Galadima, as her running mate. She said while the country was listed as one having the highest number of poor people, the ruling APC and opposition PDP were trading blames instead of proffering solutions. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is insisting that the fight against corruption must remain central to the federal government's economic policy. Speaking at the opening of the inaugural Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit, Professor Osinbajo urged the diaspora community to be strong stakeholders in this quest, as there is no way any economic policy can be sustained with the kind of corruption inherited by the present administration.
There is no country in the world that can progress any kind of economic policy if there is the sort of corruption that we have seen in our country in the past few years. There is no way that an economic policy can be sustained unless we deal with the issue of grand corruption. It's impossible. And that is why this must be central to our economic policies. It must be central. The fight against corruption must be central to whatever economic policy we want to progress. You're all aware of how some of the questionable economic decisions and practices in recent years sowed the seeds of many of the economic troubles that became full-blown shortly after we came into office in 2015. We emerged from one of the biggest oil booms in the country. As a matter of fact, the biggest oil boom in the country, with oil prices at between 100 and 114 for 5 consistent years, from 2011 to 2014. But we emerged not just with depleted external reserves, but also no commensurate level of investment in infrastructure or the welfare of the Nigerian people.
And winners have emerged in the essay competition organized by UBA Foundation, the corporate social responsibility arm of the United Bank for Africa PLC. The top prize went to 14-year-old Miss Omisiri Ojegba, who beat 2 other contestants in the final 3 placements to clinch a 2 million naira grant for her university education. The management of the UBA Foundation commended the winner for their exceptional brilliance and encouraged the over 1,000 contestants to sharpen their writing skills.
It's a battle of wits. The UBA says it is providing competitive platform for senior secondary school students in Nigeria to develop their intellectual and writing abilities. This year, the students are tested on environmental issues.
This 2018 National Essay Competition, it's been the most exciting that we've had in the 7 years that we've been running it. The entries were incredible. We had entries from every single state in the country.
The bank says one key philosophy guiding the foundation is impact.
For us, we believe that it's not just enough to sponsor people, but we must identify those who truly need it. And that is why our educational grant is for people who will go to university in Africa.
The judges, professors of English language, assessed the work of the participants. They said they were confronted with thousands of good and not so good essays, many knocked out on technical grounds.
We found also that many of the essays could not avoid using text messaging symbols, slangs, and cliches. And that emphasized the notion that the short messaging service we call SMS mode has had and is still having extensive damaging implications on the Nigerian English usage, which is a dangerous trend prevalent especially among Nigerian youth.
12 of the writers were screened to participate in a live essay writing competition. They are called Special 12. Then the nerve-wracking moments for the final 3.
Is your heart beating fast? Somebody in 6,000 is coming out as the overall number 1. That person is divine or mercy.
The winner could not contain her emotions as she walks away with the biggest prize of the competition. Divine Ojegba is getting an educational grant to study in any African university of her choice. The competition has been held annually since 2011, with students challenged to write on different engaging topics to test their writing and cognitive skills.
It was also cherry news in the education sector as Shell Petroleum Development Corporation has awarded scholarships to several children in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, as part of its corporate social responsibility. The company announced the awards when it held its Education Day to showcase the interventions the company makes in the sector across the country. According to the management of SPDC, the educational schemes it has been implementing for decades is part of the company's support to human resources and capacity development in Nigeria.
It's another time of the year to reward academic excellence. And for these children who are beneficiaries of the Shell Petroleum Development Company scholarship, it's a day they can never forget. The children are accompanied by their parents and teachers to officially receive their scholarship award from the SPDC to mark Education Day. The special guest at the event is the Minister of Education, who is represented by Mr. Olagunjo Lateef, and he speaks on the benefits of awarding scholarships to the students.
It is therefore my wish that other multinational companies and organizations in Nigeria take a cue from SPDC JV in support of the efforts of the federal government in scholarship delivery to Nigerians.
The chairman of Shell in Nigeria, represented by the General Manager, External Relations, Igoweli, spoke about the essence of Education Day.
A demonstration of that faith we have in the human capacity of Nigerians. That's what we're basically doing today. And the message is simple. One thing that I'm very, very certain of is that academically they will excel. Because they have the talent, they have capacity, they are driven to excel.
The Bayelsa State Commissioner for Education appealed to SPDC to focus search for beneficiaries from schools in public areas.
Shell should focus more on public schools so that those children out there who school or go to the school that is closer to them because their parents can't take them to another school that they think is better will have the privilege of leaving that immediate environment and going to school where they think they can have the best of education.
Congratulations.
And then the presentation of the award checks to the beneficiaries. Education is certainly the bedrock of any nation's growth and human development. And for these children drawn from Abia, Bayelsa, Delta, Imo, and River States, the gesture by Shell will help them have a positive impact in Nigeria.
And with the OPEC meeting coming up next month, what should we expect? Kaido Kikelu has that story and the rest in business news.
You First. First Bank.
Many thanks, Millicent, and you're welcome to Business News. We'll begin with this story where Nigeria has climbed up 3 positions on the 2018 World Prosperity Index, and that's according to a report released today by UK-based Legatum Institute. The prosperity ranking obtained from the Institute's website shows that Nigeria moved up from 132 to 129 in the overall prosperity index rankings compared to last year. The biggest positive change came in business environment, which increased by 12 places, but the country dropped 1 place on safety and security against last year. The list was topped by Norway, which retains its position from 2017, while Afghanistan rounds off the rankings at 149th. The Legatum Prosperity Index, which is an annual ranking based on various factors, including wealth, economic growth, education, health, Personal Well-Being and Quality of Life was developed in 2006 and is based on 104 different variables analyzed across 149 countries around the world. And Saudi Arabia says it is seeking Nigeria's cooperation to stabilize the global oil market. This comes after Saudi Arabia's Minister of Petroleum, Energy and Industry, Khalid Al-Fali, held talks in Abuja with Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum, Ibe Kachiku, ahead of next week's meeting of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries in Vienna, Austria. Mr. Al-Fali says his country will not cut oil output on its own to stabilize the market. And he added that signals from fellow OPEC members, including Nigeria, Iraq and Libya, were positive ahead of the meeting, as ministers were keen to bring back stability to oil markets. Meanwhile, Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources says the federal government plans to collaborate with the Saudi Arabia government to revamp Nigeria's refineries and also restructure the downstream sector of the petroleum industry. The federal government, state, the Federal Capital Territory, as well as the 774 local governments have shared a total of 788.1 billion naira for the month of October. The Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, made this known after the monthly Federation Account Allocation Committee meeting in Kaduna. Mr. Idris says the 682.1 billion naira gross statutory revenue for the month was higher by 112.2 billion naira than the 569.2 billion naira shared in September. He attributed this increase to crude oil export sales, which he said improved by 0.82 million barrels, resulting in an increased revenue of $54.19 million to the Federation. Let's head over to the Nigeria Stock Exchange, where Nigeria's stock market records its third consecutive drop within the final trading week of November, as total volume of shares transactions rises by nearly 21%. Teniola Shibowale has details of Wednesday's activities at the NSE.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The domestic stock market ends midweek trading session with continued sell-off in major blue-chip equities after a mixed performance across the 5 key sectors of the NSE. Total value of listed equities dropped further by about 55 billion naira to 11.325 trillion naira, while the market's main index fell by 0.48%. On the price chart, the shares of Continental Reinsurance led a pack of 12 gainers, up by 10%, following a proposal by its parent company, Continental Reinsurance African Investment Limited, to buy all outstanding shares of the firm. Meanwhile, Diamond Bank is top on a list of 23 losers, down by 9.88%, while the shares of Access Bank is the highest contributors to over 220 million shares traded in 3,252 deals for Wednesday. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Teniola Shibowale.
Thank you, Teniola. Well, it's mostly positive close for some of the world's leading stock markets, except Europe, as investors share comment from U.S. Federal Reserve's Chairman Jerome Powell that interest rates are close to neutral while focusing on upcoming G20 summit. Let's now take a look at the figures. And that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I am Kayode Okikiolu. It's now back to you, Millicent.
You first. First Bank.
Thank you, Kaide. Still ahead on the news at 10. Reigning MPFL champions Lowy Stars of Makadi suffered defeat in their first qualification match for the 2019 CAF Champions League. That's in sports news. Please stay with us.